In this lesson, I'm going to share lots of practical tips on how to use your body language and your voice to make a strong impact when you make presentations. Hi there, I'm Derek and this is English for Professionals, the best place to improve your professional communication skills for work. Before we get started with the lesson, just let me tell you that this topic is one of many topics I cover in my course, 9 Days to Confident Presentations. The course gives you a step-by-step system to help you present clearly and confidently in English and contains my best tips, strategies and phrases from over 21 years of coaching. You also get a customized presentations toolkit, audio versions of all the lessons so you can learn on the go, interactive quizzes, my ultimate presentations checklist and more. You'll find all the course details in the video description below. If you want to make a strong impact at work by making professional and confident presentations, you should definitely check it out. And now, let's get started with the lesson. We're going to talk about posture, how you hold your body when you sit or stand. Gestures, the things that you do with your arms and your hands. Eye contact, movement, facial expression, and voice. And before we get into the lesson, this is really important. You don't have to become an expert at body language to deliver a great presentation. You don't need perfect posture or dramatic gestures. Just making a few simple changes, trying a few things can have a big impact. Why does delivery matter? Imagine this situation. You have two presenters, the same content, but one feels more convincing than the other. Why? Often it comes down to delivery, how they use their voice, how they move, how confident they seem. And this part is important. It's not about showing off, it's about connecting with your audience. So in this lesson, we'll have a brief look at how these tools support your message and help you to come across as calm, credible, and engaging. Let's start with body language. So here are 5 things to focus on. The first one is posture. Stand tall, relaxed but upright. Avoid slouching or leaning too far to one side. Think open and grounded. Feet flat, shoulders back, head up. Important to think about your posture. Now let's talk about gestures. Use your hands naturally to support your points. You don't have to wave your hands around, as I'm sure you'll know, but simple things like holding up fingers, or doing something like this to talk about 3 main points, or like this, 3 main points, or you can do it like this, 3 main points. Another thing, to use your arms. Now you may not see this very well here on my small circle camera, but wide arms, have your arms out wide to represent a big opportunity. Other things you can do, put your hand on your heart when you're talking about something personal or heartfelt. And another tip is to keep your gestures at chest level, not too high, not too low, around chest level. The next thing I want to talk about is facial expression. So let your face reflect your message. A small smile, raised eyebrows, or a moment of seriousness. These can help your audience to connect. So be aware of how you use your face. Most of the time we do this quite naturally, but it's just something to be aware of. Don't overdo it though. Just try not to have a blank expression on your face for the whole presentation. Next up is eye contact. Make soft, regular eye contact with different parts of your audience. Don't stare at one spot or person or scan too quickly. Pause, connect, and move on. Then we have movement and positioning. Stand still when you're making an important point. Don't move about too much. This also helps to get your message across. Stand still for an important point. Step forward slightly to show enthusiasm. And avoid moving back and forth, walking back and forth too much, because this can be very distracting to your audience And if you're presenting online, make sure your camera shows your upper body clearly so your expressions and gestures are visible. I hope I'm doing that here. I should be in the middle. I'm over a little bit on the right, but I think you get the point. And the next thing we're going to talk about is extremely important when it comes to your delivery, using your voice. And we're going to talk about intonation to start off. Intonation is the rise and fall of your voice when you speak. It's kind of like the music of your voice. It helps you to sound interested, engaged, and natural. If you speak in a flat or monotone way, it's harder for your audience to stay focused. Even if your content is excellent, you might even put them to sleep. Let's take a look at an example. So I'm going to give you a bad example first. Today I want to share 3 ideas that will help you plan better. Listen to it again. Today I want to share 3 ideas that will help you plan better. Very monotone and flat. Not very engaged. Let's hear it a different way. Today I want to share 3 ideas that will help you plan better. Today I want to share 3 ideas that will help you plan better. Did you hear that? Did you hear the difference? The rise and fall, it sounds much better. Now let's take a look at the examples here on the screen. Let's look at a quick example. Hear how my voice rises? Let's look at a quick example. Are you ready to begin? Begin? Are you ready to begin? This part is really important. This part is really important. So I think you get my point about the rise and fall. Again, this is something that often we do quite naturally, but it's important to listen out for it. If you record yourself, then you'll be able to hear, is your voice flat and monotone? Does it sound boring and, uninteresting? Is it going to be a problem when you're trying to engage with your audience? If you do notice this, then you need to work on your intonation. The next thing I want to talk about connected to using your voice is the volume of your voice. Don't be afraid to speak a little bit louder at times. Maybe at the start when you want to get people's attention right from the start of your presentation. But it can also be very effective to lower your voice sometimes when you want to draw people in. And the next point here is speed. Aim for a steady pace. If you're nervous, you might end up speaking too fast. Make sure to slow down if you realize this. And again, I mentioned earlier recording. Listen to yourself. Are you speaking too fast? Are you speaking too slow? And now let's talk about stress. Now, I'm not talking about stress as in feeling nervous, anxious, or worried. I'm talking about word stress. So we talked about intonation earlier. That's the rise and fall of your voice across a whole sentence. Stress is about which specific words you say more strongly to show importance. So when you want to emphasize. Think of intonation as the melody of your sentence and stress as the spotlight on keywords. Let's take a look at these examples. We need to cut costs, not lower quality. We need to cut costs, not lower quality. So those are the words I'm emphasizing in this sentence. Next one. The most important point is at the end. The most important point is at the end. So you can hear that these 3 are stressed, especially the one in the middle. The most important point is at the end. I'll explain the next steps in a moment. Okay, so you can hear that the stress is on those words. You don't have to stress every word because then it will sound really odd. Just the words in the sentence that carry meaning, the words that you want to emphasize. Okay, so that was a little bit about word stress. Now let's move on and talk about pauses. Now we've already mentioned pauses a couple of times and I highly recommend building them into how you deliver your presentation. Use before or after key ideas. It helps the audience process, gives them a moment to let something extremely important or significant or, a statistic, a really important statistic, to let that sink in. So don't forget to use pauses in your delivery. Highly effective. So we've talked about posture, gestures, facial expressions, how to use your voice, pauses. Now let's talk about how to practice. And my first tip is, and one that I've already mentioned, is to film yourself, especially for your body language and for your voice. Record a short part of your presentation, just a couple of minutes, and watch it back. What's working? Are there any areas where you could improve? You can also choose to just record your voice. Use your smartphone or a dictaphone and check for monotone or fast speech, as we mentioned before. So record yourself, film yourself is great for checking your body language and your voice, and just recording yourself is good for focusing only on your voice. Next option I have here is mirror practice. This is also great for becoming more aware of your facial expressions and your gestures, and it also helps you to build confidence. And before we finish, here's a mindset reminder. You don't need to master everything today. It's a process. Focus on your message first. That's always going to be the most important. What is the message? What's the key thing you want to get across in your presentation? And then when it comes to body language and delivery, the topic of this lesson, think about, one or two techniques at a time. Gestures, voice, posture. Don't try to work on everything in one presentation. Work on one or two things at a time and build gradually. Body language and delivery is a long-term skill. As I mentioned at the start of this lesson, if you want to become a confident presenter so you can make a real impact at work, then check out my online course, 9 Days to Confident Presentations. All the information is in a link in the video description below. And if you like this lesson, give it a thumbs up and watch one of these next.